Noor was a young man living in a fantasy world who was pretty strong for his age and very well liked by everyone in the town. He worked a job requiring manual labor, but even his boss was impressed by his work and never said a word against him, as he was the best worker that he ever saw. One such day, after taking his daily wage, he was about to head back when he suddenly hears the voice of a woman screaming for help coming from a nearby cave. He immediately rushes over even after his boss tells him not to, as it could be dangerous. He ignores everyone's warning and enters the cave only to see a girl wrapped in magical barbed wire while an adventurer's party face off against a giant demonic bull. Ever since he was a child, he always had to take care of his mother and the household because his father never came back with the milk. But he took it as a champ and started taking care of the house. His mom was sickly and mostly bedridden, so he made hot soup for her to drink while covered in soot and told her that he is going out to hunt some rabbits so she can have some protein for dinner. His mother cleaned his face while apologizing for not being able to give him anything in life. But Noor put on a brave face and told her he doesn't need anything anyways. Later that night, he prepares a hearty rabbit stew for his mom, but when he comes back to feed her, she has already passed away from this world. Now poor Noor had no one to call family in this world, as he buried his mother outside the house, but decided that he can't be weak and cry. He started living alone, tending to the garden, catching game, and taking care of the farm animals, and studied inside his room after thoroughly cleaning it. He trained his body by catching wild fish, carrying heavy loads on the mountains, and eating lots of protein every day. One night, due to loneliness, he climbs on top of a chair and takes out an old dusty story book and starts reading it. This takes him way back, as he remembers the time when his family was whole, and his father would tell him the tales about mighty adventurers who fought colossal dragons, learnt magic from wizards, lifted curses in the haunted forest, and fought against an army of elves. These stories always fascinated him, as his father would tell him that the duty of an adventurer is to protect the weak people and make sure they are never hurt. This gives him inspiration to do something with his life, and next day, after tending to animals, he gets ready to leave his hovel and move towards the city to try and be an adventurer. He stays in the forest at night with a campfire, and by the next morning he arrives at the beautiful city of his kingdom. He enters the giant main gate and is completely blown away to see the amount of people roaming around the markets, selling their goods, and people buying swords and fruits at the same place. While walking, he notices a man with a sword and decides to follow him, which leads him to the Adventurers Guild. He enters the establishment to find a big burly man at the reception instead of a thick furry girl. Disappointed, he tells the man that he is here to be an adventurer, but the man brushes him off by saying that this is no place for kids and he should think about his parents. Noor replies that his parents are dead, which catches the fatty's attention, and he tells him to drop by the training school first. Noor seems confused, but Fatty tells him that to join a guild, he needs to pick a school, go through basic training, pick his class and skills, and only after graduating can he become an adventurer. Noor is happy for the information and excitedly heads over to a school, with the aim to become the strongest swordsman. He enrolls and starts training in the way of sword. But even after several weeks, while every other student starts awakening their magical potential, Noor still says without any magical abilities. He keeps practicing, and several months pass by, after which the instructor tells him that he doesn't have the talent and is wasting his time here. He tells him to join a different school, as he is definitely not fit to be a swordsman. Noor doesn't give up and finds the school and decides to train as a warrior. He starts training under a big fat redhead, but even after going through intense training for several months, the redhead tells him that he doesn't have the talent for it, as all he has learnt is how to parry attacks. He then goes through several different schools, first as a hunter, but he gets kicked out. After that, he tries to become a thief, but gets rejected as he has no talent for it. He then goes to become a magician but fails even in that, so finally decides to become a healer, but fails and returns back disappointed. The fatty is shocked to learn that even after spending months at every school, he didn't learn a single thing, and tells him that unfortunately, there is nothing he can do to become an adventurer. Disappointed in himself, Noor leaves the city and returns back to his cottage in the woods, but he decides that he is not going to admit defeat and creates his own training setup with a sword. He decides to perfect the one move that he learnt, which was to parry and deflect attacks aimed at him. He spent days perfecting it day and night, and finally, after a year of rigorous training, he became strong enough to parry 10 attacks at once. He decides to keep training, and 3 years pass by, after which he manages to parry 100 swords at once, but gains no new skills. He keeps training endlessly to the point where his sword breaks. 14 years pass by as he realizes that in these past years he has trained every single day and is now able to parry 1,000 swords at once without fail. Despite putting this much hard work, he doesn't gain any new skills, but still decides to head over to the Adventurers Guild once more. This time he meets with a young girl who looks at his skill set, only to advise him to visit the training school. Noor tells him that he has already been through them, which surprises the girl, as she tells him that he doesn't have any skills to make him an adventurer. Noor gets disheartened once again when the fatty comes out and barely recognizes him. They sit down to talk over some beer. When Noor tells him about his training for the past years, Fatty tells him that there are ranks in an adventure from E to S, but even to become E rank, you need at least one skill, which Noor doesn't have. Noor gets sad, but Fatty tells him that not many people know, but there is another rank below E, which is F. There are some limitations for F-rank adventurers, as they can't take kill quests or work in the forests outside the city. They can only take odd manual labor jobs in the city, but no one would really want to do that. To his surprise, Noor immediately accepts and finally gets his adventurer's license. He starts doing odd jobs around the city like carrying heavy loads, finding lost cats, and keeps training every single night. He also takes nursing jobs and takes care of old people by cooking for them. While doing all this, he keeps training and seems to be happy working as an adventurer who can actually help people. Finally, we come back to the present where the giant bull walks towards the adventurers and smashes the leader with his axe, who flies into the wall. Noor quickly checks him, only to find out that he is dead. He looks back to see the other guys getting skewered by the bull as he kills every single person in the area effortlessly. Before moving his eyes onto the white-haired girl, Noor's body immediately jumps into action as he throws a rock at him and diverts the attention before running away. The monster chases him with surprising quickness, and Noor realizes that he can't run away. So he turns around and parries the bull's attack. To his surprise, the parry was so strong that the bull gets blasted into the wall. It immediately recovers and jumps through the dust to attack Noor, but he is able to parry the attacks again and again as he realizes that if he misses a single parry, he is as good as dead. He tries to find an opening, but realizes that he doesn't have a single offensive skill to actually land an attack. His swords start chipping, but the demon turns towards the girl and rushes towards her. Noor immediately uses his feather step ability, which increases his speed to appear before the bull and deflects the attack once again at the cost of his own sword. He remembers his father telling him that an adventurer defends the weak even at the cost of his own life. So he stands his ground even with a broken sword. And this time when the monster attacks, Noor parries with all his might, which deflects the axe so much that it bounces back and chops the head of the bull cleanly before getting stuck in the rocks. The girl is utterly shocked as blood splatters all around the area, but the magical jabber wire disappears from her body. He falls to the ground, looking at his sword which shatters and jabber how close of a call it was. The girl immediately thanks him for saving her life and jabber his name. But Noor replies that his name isn't worth remembering and walks back outside. He walks through the streets, thinking about how he almost got killed by a giant cow, and realizes that he needs to train even ointment if he gibber to truly become an adventurer who can protect people. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for part 2, and make sure to check out this brand new anime about a failed hero who turns into a monster after getting gibber by a parasite but pretends to be normal.